Hey guys, Capt Dylan Hubbard here at Hubbard's Marina. Wanted to do a quick video about electronic monitoring in the Gulf of Mexico and kind of what it means for our federal for-hire, private recreational, and everybody in the Gulf of Mexico. It really is going to bring an added benefit, in my opinion, to our entire industry, our fleet, and the recreational and private recreational fishermen that patronize our boats. The non-boat owning recreational fishermen in the Gulf of Mexico and those from all over the country that come to the Gulf of Mexico to fish that don't have their own boats to go out there and be a part of the private recreational fleet, they join federal for-hire recreational anglers to get out there and access our federal fisheries. So this new electronic monitoring program, what's been dubbed SEFHIER, in the Gulf and South Atlantic, is a very unique program that's been worked on by multitudes of people for many, many years, over a decade. So our fleet is actually a lot of the driving force behind this electronic monitoring program. So I saw a recent post like, save the captains, stand up for the captains, this electronic monitoring thing is not good. Well, some captains like myself are actually supporting the program. I've been working on this program now for about 4 years and been involved talking about, dealing with, and helping to build this program because I believe in it. Do you like the idea of having better access to the fishery? Do you like the idea of more flexibility in management approaches? Do you like the fact that we're all recreational anglers and this program could perhaps provide more access to recreational fishermen? Because everybody, in my opinion, is a recreational fisherman. It doesn't matter if you fish on a boat, a dock, a jetty, a pier, a seawall, or if you're on your own private boat or on a charter boat or party boat. We're all recreational fishermen. We should all be in this together, and we're working towards improving recreational data collection in this program, because data collection from fisheries dependent science is super important. There's two pieces to fisheries science. There's fisheries independent and fisheries dependent. And this program is working towards improving fisheries dependent science. The main pieces of fisheries dependent science is trying to find out the universe of anglers. How many anglers are out there that could go fishing? In our federal for-hire fleet, that's our permits. We're under a limited access program, or LAP. So there's a moratorium on the number of federal permits, federal reef fish permits in the Gulf of Mexico. So there's only a certain number of boats or permits able to fish, and those permits have to be put on a boat. So our universe of anglers is pretty well defined. However, there's a huge question floating around of how many of those permits are sitting on boats that never intend to fish, or how many latent permits are there. So when you hear people talk about latent permits, that's the question. How many permits are out there not fishing or never will fish? They're just sitting or parked on a vessel until they could be sold, or it's an investment for somebody and they're just holding it until they want to sell it or can sell it. The other part of it, besides having a well-defined universe of anglers, is knowing the effort. So effort is super important. Now that you know there's a universe of anglers, how many times a year do those universe of anglers go out and prosecute the fishery or make a fishing trip? And how many times per day do they go out there and do that? Is it once per day? Do they go out on multiple trips per day? Those are all part of the question. And then the third part of fisheries dependent science is catch per unit effort, or CPUE. For example, you can go out there on a fishing trip and you might be able to catch a lot of fish quickly, but you bring your buddy who doesn't fish as much, maybe he likes golfing, sorry, but he might go out there with you and not catch as many fish as quickly. You might bring your wife, she might outfish you, she probably will, and her CPUE is different from yours, and it's different from your buddies, because your catch per unit of your effort is going to be varying based on fishing skill, a little bit of luck, what bait you're using, tackle. And across the Gulf of Mexico, we all have different varying CPUEs, and fishing is fishing. Sometimes your CPUE could be different one day than it is the next. You could have a tough day of fishing. Next day you could go out there and they're jumping in the boat. So those are the three pieces that managers, scientists need. How many anglers, how much effort those anglers are putting on the fishery, and then their catch per unit of effort. If we give them all three pieces on a silver platter with daily electronic reporting that's validated, you now have taken all the estimation, all the guessing. There's no more guesswork. It's simply just adding up the numbers that are reported. And that's what I love about this program, and that's what I love about the idea behind electronic monitoring, because there's no more guesswork. Instead of having some sort of estimation or educated guessing or complicated algorithms trying to estimate what's being landed, all we're doing is totaling it up. It moves from a survey through data implications and imputations and a lot of complicated stuff to a census-based survey. All they're doing is just taking all the numbers and adding them up. And it's more real time because it's happening every day electronically. So there's only like a 48-hour delay. This year is a great example. Look at the Gulf of Mexico federal for-hire fleet's recreational red snapper season, the Fed for-hire recreational red snapper season. We had a lot of bad weather. The entire Western Gulf missed probably more than half of their red snapper season due to weather. The Eastern Gulf, we had a lot of bad weather even here in Florida. So we didn't get to access the fishery as much as we would like to have, and we didn't land our quota. I guarantee we didn't land our quota because we had so much weather issues. However, the current structure of management doesn't allow for more real-time accounting for our quota and where we're at in that quota. Under this electronic monitoring program, once full compliance is reached and data calibration is done, yeah, that's right, we calibrate our data and we want it calibrated, unlike some management structures going on right now. Once we reach full compliance and we have our data calibration, we will be able and enabled to fully prosecute our fishery without buffers and without any sort of delay, because within every 48 hours, you'll be able to go on the website right there through CIRO, or the Southeast Regional Office of NOAA Fisheries, and you'll be able to see what percentage of the quota is landed, because it will be right there, and it will be census-based information. It won't be a guess. So it's going to be super powerful and enable our fishery to have more access, more accountably, more sustainably, and we're going to be able to reach what's called OY, or optimum yield. And that's what MSA, or the Magnuson-Stevens Act, is all about: reaching optimum yield, protecting the fish, sustaining fishermen, and allowing us to prosecute our fishery in a healthy, sustainable way. And that's what this program is really going to enable us to do. A lot of questions surrounding the program. One of the biggest sticking points is vessel monitoring. There's actually a lawsuit floating around right now about this issue. Well, vessel monitoring is an important piece of this SEFHIER program in the Gulf. The South Atlantic, there's no vessel monitoring portion. So in the South Atlantic, all those charter boats and party boat captains are going to be going out there fishing and doing their reports. The data is going to be stored in a warehouse. They're going to be able to look at it and use it kind of as an abundance indice maybe, and they're going to be able to look at it and kind of ground truth some of the CDAR process, but they're not going to be able to plug that data into a fisheries assessment and have it last through the CDAR process and go through a peer review and be signed off on. In the Gulf of Mexico, we're going to report electronically daily prior to offloading fish, which reduces any recall bias, meaning if you have to report every week, you might forget. If I report on Saturday, I might forget exactly what I caught and kept Monday. Whereas if I'm doing it every day prior to offload, there's no recall bias. You are gonna hopefully remember as specifically, if not perfectly, what happened that day on your trip. So no recall bias, plus the data is validated. Now, this was a big sticking point for me. I don't want necessarily a cellular-based GPS archival unit on my vessel, or a vessel, what's called a VMS historically, that satellite tracking unit on my vessel. I didn't want that, and I was super opposed to it. 4 years ago, when we were kind of starting to build this program out, I was really, really opposed to it. But in going through the process, learning more about it, and learning more about what the implications are of removing it, I became slowly a little bit more adjusted to the idea of it. And the reason why is the data has to be validated. If we go through all this effort of hailing out, we have to, under this program, we have to hail out prior to leaving the dock, and then prior to offloading fish, we have to submit a landing report of what we caught and kept, what we caught and released, how long our trip was, who ran the boat, how much fuel we burned, all this information, approximately where we fished, all in a catch report and send it off. So we have to do all this work, and I wanted to make sure all that work and all that data collected is able to be used in a stock assessment. And the only way to do that is to make sure that data is validated, because every stock assessment has to go through a third-party peer review. And it won't make it through the peer review unless the data can be validated, where those third-party unbiased peer reviewers say, hey, this is good because it's been checked. It's been through QA, QC, and we can sign off on it and say this is valid data. Or at least it was collected in a valid way. That's a better way to say that. So all this to say, I wanted to validate our data by Dockside intercept. There's already FWC people. If you're from Mississippi, Alabama, your DNR comes down to the dock and checks your catch, right? They do it pretty often here at Hubbard's Marina because we're in a high traffic tourism area and we've been here a while, so we're kind of on the radar, if you could say. Some people might be watching this video and be like, I don't get checked hardly at all. So that was my effort, is I wanted more Dockside intercepts to validate our data. But to pass the peer review process, a certain percentage of those trips have to be intercepted at the dock. There's 1,200 plus, almost 1,300 federal permits across the Gulf of Mexico. All of us making a lot of trips. Some of our boats make 200, 250, almost 300 trips in a year. And so a certain percentage of those trips, around 10% of those trips, would have to be intercepted by boots on the ground to validate our catch reports and our catch data. It's impossible to intercept that percentage of trips right now. They would have to hire more people. Well, hiring more people is super, super expensive and basically would make the program insoluble. It wouldn't be able to launch through Dockside intercepts in person, and our data wouldn't meet that minimum threshold to pass a peer review process. So to me, the importance of being able to do all this work, collect all this data, and then the data able to be used in a stock assessment to give us more access, to allow us to fish more accountably, to allow us to remove buffers is super important. So that's why I think affixing a GPS archival unit or a satellite-based unit to my vessel is become a little bit more a little bit easier to swallow for me, because it validates in real time that trip occurred. Without a shadow of a doubt, that boat left the dock because we see it in the GPS archival unit or the satellite-based VMS unit. Now, another big piece of this puzzle that people get confused about is the term VMS, or Vessel Monitoring System. Historically, that refers to a $2,000–3,000 machine that hooks up to a satellite. They've since changed the definition of a VMS device, or vessel monitoring system, for this program. The agency, or NOAA Fisheries, Southeast Regional Office, has been working really hard on a reimbursement program. So if you have to, in the Gulf of Mexico, if you're a federally permitted for-hire vessel, you not only have to do that hail out, that catch report, but you have to have one of these units affixed to your vessel after phase 2 implementation of this program, which should happen sometime December of 2021. They want you to be able to have a reimbursement idea, or a way path forward to get reimbursed on buying one of those units. So the new unit, the cellular GPS archival unit, isn't able or eligible under the old specifications to qualify for reimbursement. So they changed the definition of vessel monitoring system, or VMS, to include GPS archival units thus making it legal and possible to then do the reimbursement program for those devices. So whether you buy an old satellite style or a new satellite style vessel monitoring system, or you buy a GPS archival system through cellular data, both of them are eligible for the reimbursement program through Pacific States Marine Fisheries. So really, really cool that they're working with us to ensure everybody is able to get that reimbursement program. Also, another big sticking point of this is the economic data. They ask economic questions. How much fuel did you use? What's the price of fuel? How much did the trip cost? How much did the customers pay? And the idea behind that economic data, I kind of was like, why do they need to know this? But through the process, again, learning, it's gonna enumerate our fishery. A lot of times when there's new regulations up, one of the big conversations is what's the economic impact? It's actually federal law that has to be included in a new regulations document. They have to do a economic impact kind of evaluation. So this is gonna enumerate our fishery. If we change red grouper or red snapper or amberjack management measures and it affects the for-hire fleet, they will be able to look at our economic information and our CPUE and our effort, and they'll be able to, without a shadow of a doubt, without any kind of guessing or imputation, they're gonna know what the financial economic impact is to the industry, which is huge. There's no more guesswork in that. And also, if another act of God occurs, like a massive hurricane or an oil spill or a huge red tide event, which unfortunately along Florida's west coast seems to be becoming more and more common, we're able to then, without a shadow of a doubt, have a federal record, public record, that proves the economic impact to your vessel and to your fleet. So very, very powerful tool moving forward into the future. There's still a lot of work being done on the program. We have our data assessment, data workshop coming up, where it's the data collection advisory panel or data collection AP that's coming up September 14th. I'm lucky enough to be on that AP, and I'm hopefully vying for the chair of that AP, and that AP's charge is mainly going to be looking at this SEFHIER program and what happens if your vessel monitoring system has issues, because the big goal from the agency, from the council, and from our fellow industry members is, yeah, we want this program to be successful. We want this to be able to validate our data, but we also want to be able to make our trips happen. If we get down to the dock and our vessel monitoring system is malfunctioning for some reason, we don't want our clients looking at us, boats running, it's iced down, baited up, fueled up. Oh, we can't leave the dock because this little electronic thing on the roof's not working. That's not what we want. So we're working really hard to come up with a kind of a workaround to what to do if you have electronic monitoring issues. So that's gonna be a big thing coming up. Also, one of the big things is, keep in mind, party boats have been doing this since the 80s. It's just the charter boats that have not been reporting. So this SEFHIER program is now gonna have party boats and charter boats reporting daily electronically in a validated program. So super cool. Overall, I think it's gonna be great for our industry, for our recreational fishermen, non-boat owning Americans who attend our vessels to access this fishery are going to get, hopefully in the long run, in the near long run, get better access to the fishery. So we're all working really, really hard for a more accountable, sustainable program and fishery and industry to approach OY even more. A lot of people, there's a lot of tinfoil hats out there talking about how the reason we're pushing for this program and we're vying for this program is we're trying to set up a history so that we can move towards an IFQ or PFQ based fishery. That works great for our commercial brethren. Well, some people think it works great, others have strong opinions otherwise, but the commercial boats have an IFQ system, the commercial fleet does. That sector that's the way they prosecute their fishery, and it's worked for that sector. In my opinion, and the opinion of the people that I work with, IFQs, PFQs, ITQs, they don't work in the federal for-hire industry. And personally, I opposed Amendment 40 because I saw it as a way forward or a path forward to IFQs or PFQs, and we saw that. Amendment 40 passed, they waited a few years, then they started looking hard at 41 and 42, and Amendments 41 and 42 were just that. They were talking about bringing IFQs into the federal for-hire fleet. We worked really hard, and we won. We defeated that idea, partly because there wasn't a catch history on charter boats, so even the people who really pushed for 41 and 42, once they saw what it actually looked like and the numbers boiled down, they actually didn't want it themselves either. So it was easy to work with people to kind of shut that one down. It's off the table, it's not being discussed. The big push for this program for me is to keep managing the fishery under season, size limits, and bag limits, but it enables us management flexibility. For example, I mentioned earlier, the Western Gulf missed a lot of their red snapper season because of bad weather. With this program, we could split the Gulf and do an east and west red snapper season. There's a lot of flexibility that comes with having a up to almost the minute program that is validated, that managers, scientists, environmentalists, fishermen, we can all agree, hey, this is great. Hey, buddy, this is great, this works, and we can all agree on the data and our path forward. So super, super valuable moving forward. And IFQs, PFQs, that's not on the radar. That's not something that we're working towards. So take the tinfoil hat off, guys, because again, that's the reason I'm involved with the groups that I'm involved with. That's the reason why I'm pushing to sit on these APs and stay involved in fisheries management, because I don't want IFQs, PFQs, or any sort of allocation-based management to enter our recreational sector right now. There's no reason for it. Even in the next 10, 15 years, I don't see a reason for it. However, when fisheries collapse and stuff like that, if some monumental thing happens down the road, that could be a discussion that happens 20, 30, 40 years from now. But right now, we're doing great. There's tons of red snapper out there. There's tons of fish out there to catch. And we're blessed here in central West Florida. I think it's the best part of the Gulf of Mexico, but that's a whole different video. And we have plenty of fish to catch, so there's no reason to look at IFQs, PFQs, ITQs unless some monumental shift occurs in the fishery, which again, right now, we don't see happening. And I think as everybody moves to a more accountable data collection program that's more real-time and validated, you're gonna see an improvement overall in access, fishery health, and the biomass. In Australia right now, they're talking about making it mandatory even for private recreational anglers to do daily electronic reporting with vessel monitoring systems attached to their vessel. So other countries are talking about doing it for their private rec fleet, because that's the biggest problem. How many anglers are on the water? How many trips are they making? And what are they landing? How quickly are they landing it? If you're able to get that information in a real-time, validated way, all your problems with fisheries science and management are solved, essentially. The last piece of the puzzle is the politics of it and arguing over who gets what. But if you remove the question marks around universe of anglers, the effort of the anglers, and the CPUE, almost all the issues are solved. So that's what we're working to do in the federal for-hire fleet. That's why I support this electronic monitoring program, and I support the vessel monitoring aspect of it too, because I want our data to be used. I don't want it to be like the South Atlantic program where we do all this work to collect all this data and then it can't be used in assessment. It can't pass the peer review aspect of a CDAR process. I want it to be used, utilized, and I want it to be something that I can stand up in court and fight for our industry and for our recreational access overall in a courtroom, because it will be validated. It will pass those processes, and we all got to work together to kind of find the issues that are happening and solve them with the managers, with CERO. They're holding webinars almost every 2 weeks on this program where you can bring them your issues and they work with you to try to solve those issues. And if it's something that can be solved, they'll change the software to allow you to do it. I've been attending almost all those webinars, bringing them a little software glitches that we've been finding since implementation January 5th. And I've seen them change the software based on the issues we're seeing on the water. It's a great program. I personally am serving as part of the Port Ambassadors program, working with industrymen around the Gulf to try to solve those software issues. I'm on the data collection AP, the Refish AP, and I'm the chair of the Outreach and Education Committee because I believe in fisheries science and fisheries management and the way we go about doing it. Everybody's working for the health of the fishery. Now, politics get involved and it makes everything ugly when politics gets involved. Kind of wish we could take the politics out of fisheries science. I believe science and politics don't mix, but that's a whole nother video, like I said. So we'll probably be doing more of these federal fishing regulations videos, and hopefully we can get these birds out of the area to so you guys can better hear us. But bad weather day was a great time to give you guys an update on the electronic monitoring program. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you've got questions, comments, drop them below and we'll try to address them for you. And who knows, maybe we make this more of a frequent thing. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. Don't forget, if you're too busy to go fishing, you're just too darn busy. Y'all have a great day.